Hey there. I want to talk to you a little bit about reselling since it seems like everybody's reselling now, buying, selling, and that's the big thing. Well, I'm a person, we've been reselling probably for 50 years. My mom and I used to go to antique shops and yard sales, and we would refinish stuff and resell it. And um, so there's a few things that I've learned that I'd like to share with you in case you're deciding to become a reseller full time. Okay, first of all, regardless of how awesome the deal is that you find, you still have to have a buyer for it. Someone has to want to pay that price. I see things where someone says, "Oh, I picked something up for $2 and it's worth $5,000." Well, that may be true, but do you have someone who's willing to pay you $5,000 for it? So keep that in mind. It may be booking at something worth a ton of money, but you have to be able to find a buyer, whether that's online, whatnot, all of that stuff. But you have to find a buyer. Secondly, what I don't see people incorporate is they say, "Oh, I found this great item, it's worth a ton of money." What you have to remember is you had to drive to that Goodwill or that Savers or whatever. You had to get there, so you already spent gas and wear and tear on your car. Then you have to purchase the item, and sometimes in some of these places you have to pay taxes. If you don't have a resale number, you have to pay taxes on the item. So when someone says, "I paid 2 and I can sell it for 10," what you're not hearing is that in between, that taxes, the money it cost you to get there, the time that it took you to find those items. So always incorporate that if you want to be a reseller. Okay, thirdly, things are not going to sell immediately. It may be a great item, but even if you have a brick and mortar shop, sometimes I have to sit on something for a year or two to get the price that I know that it's worth. Again, because that buyer has to come in who knows the value of it and who wants it, enough to pay the price for it. So you have to sit on it for a while. The question you have to ask yourself is, do I have a place to store all of this? Am I going to fill up my garage with all these great buys that I've gotten and then not be able to sell? So keep that in mind if you're reselling or thinking about being a reseller. Excuse me. Next, to do well at reselling, you have to shop often. To do well at the Goodwills or any of those secondhand stores, you have to shop often. You've often heard them reference when the carts come out. Well, it's hit or miss if the carts are coming out. And now so many resellers are out there that not only has supply and demand kicked into place, more people are buying things. So Goodwill got smart and they're raising their prices. But also, you have to go and you have to look at everything. You have to look at a lot of junk to be able to find those wonderful items. So when you see those little short videos that say, "Oh, look what I found at Goodwill," keep in mind that that person probably walked up and down aisles for months, possibly, and they got lucky that day, which we all do. But just keep that in mind. Excuse me. Next, you have to have some knowledge about what is old, what is not. And it has changed, the market has changed so much that there is a lot of knowledge out there. You can use Lens to help you find things. The perfect example, I think, is old books. I had an old dealer tell me a long time ago, whoever knows the most wins when it comes to old books. Because you can purchase a vintage looking book and think, okay, I might be able to get a couple bucks for it. But then you look it up and that might be a rare book, or it might be junk. So you have to have knowledge. You have to know, what's the difference between a Bauer bowl and a Fiesta bowl and all of a Yellowware bowl, so that you know when you are making your investment and you're hoping to get a return on it, you have to ask yourself, is this a good investment for me? And finally, most of us cannot make a living as a reseller. It's just not possible. I have an antique shop with 4,000 square feet. I probably finish up at the end of the year just with a little bit of profit, but I certainly couldn't make a living at it. Even though I've purchased those great items at the store that I'm like, oh, this is great. I mean, I sold a Levi jacket once 25 years ago for $250. But those big sales like that are few and far between. So keep that in mind. And I hope that this helps you if you're considering becoming a reseller. And I don't want to dissuade you because it's so much fun. It's our hobby, our addiction, our disease, whatever you want to call it. We like to do that. But just remind yourself, I'm doing this for fun. Yes, I'm looking for a great bargain. But consider the items that I will list at the end of this video if you're considering becoming a retailer. So have fun with your treasures. And most importantly, friends, always, always, always be well.